are listening to She Has No Limits, the podcast.
Once you're shown, you can't unsee. Time is short, you best believe in yourself. You're a formidable force driving, diving lessons in the deep end.
She Has No Limits is a movement and community for professional women to come together, be inspired and learn how to design the limitless careers that we deserve. A massive welcome to Olivia Hanlon, who joins us for our Allies, Support Networks and Communities podcast series. Wow, she has the most wonderful story to tell. Shortly after graduating in 2019, she founded Girls in Marketing, an online community and membership platform that is tailored towards professional and aspiring marketeers as well as small businesses. This community has now grown in less than 2 years to have over 40,000 followers on Instagram, 39,000 on LinkedIn, 15,000 on TikTok, and that's not mentioning all the other social channels. All of this achieved in what has been the most challenging of time for many of us. The aim of Girls in Marketing is to provide affordable, low-cost resources, guides and advice for marketers all over the globe with education at the forefront. Olivia's key focus is to bring about hope and excitement to marketeers, help marketeers upskill, grow confidence and network with others in the marketing space through providing support and a collaborative community spirit. She lives in Liverpool with her partner and her very new puppy, Zara. Olivia, welcome.
Olivia, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So, tell us why you decided to start your own business.
Well, to be honest, it was never really a plan. And I recently spoke to a business mentor who said I was crazy because I didn't go into it thinking it was going to be a business. The main thing for me was I started the community whilst I was working full time. And it sort of blew up to the point where I was kind of like, I'm spending so much time doing these things for free or, really cheaply and for affordable prices. And I was kind of sat there one day and thinking, my time is precious and I have a 9-to-5 job and I'm doing all these sessions with people and I'm having a great time, but I'm not really seeing anything from it. So I decided with the love from my partner and who was very supportive of me to quit my full-time job to set up the business with not really any plan, but my kind of mantra in life is to go with the flow. What set me up really in the first place was just having that support network, but no other kind of business structure. People are like, oh, I had this idea for ages and I just had this project I was really passionate about and I thought I've got to monetize it for it to be valuable for me as well. And that just kind of turned it into a business.
So I was going to jump in there, Olivia, because it's brilliant, isn't it? You saw the opportunity, you were doing loads of work, you were enjoying it, but the reality is that there are some real pressures, aren't there, for women within the sector of marketing that you've experienced that were sort of feeding into some of the work you were doing before you launched the business. I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about that and what you were constantly hearing and feeling and the comments that you were getting.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it was around confidence and having the confidence to go for a promotion, for example, or even just the element that when you're working in a certain workplace, like the pressures that you feel to kind of work up the career ladder, but that you face as a woman, that you are kind of almost at an instant disadvantage compared to others. So something for me was kind of speaking to colleagues and people that I knew and connections and understanding that kind of issue and really wanting to kind of add something new and bring that aspect of community to the marketing industry, especially to younger people, because there are a lot of things that go on in terms of marketing communities and there are a lot of people out there that are building different types of communities, but something that I felt was missing was something I'm a type of person who loves that kind of jeans and a nice top vibe. I'm not really into kind of suited and booted networking events. And I felt like that was all other networking events that were in Liverpool, where I'm based, or kind of literally around the UK. There was nothing really that was just casual for marketers to go and meet up and just talk to other people, talk about things that are worrying them, you know, from just campaigns or projects that they're working on, something a little bit different. So with that in mind, I obviously started the community, not really thinking that it would be a business, just more kind of doing it because it was a community that I craved, something that I wanted personally. And from that has obviously grown into what it is, an amazing kind of platform and community that is, you know, kind of impacts people across the world.
That difference that you wanted to create, Olivia, what's the feedback been from the community? Do they also recognise that it was something that was missing for them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone I speak to that is kind of older, so not necessarily the target audience, but people who would have been our target audience maybe, you know, 5-10 years ago, always say, I wish I had something like this when I was kind of just getting started or just in the early years of my career. Something that is relatable, something that people enjoy, something that people feel they're a part of, because I think that's so important with communities, is that they feel supported by that community and by others within that community as well.
Wonderful. So tell us a bit more about Girls in Marketing. What are you setting out to achieve? What's the vision?
Mm-hmm. I think the main vision really is to just impact people and allow people to feel supported and like they are part of a community, you know, for as long as they need, whether that is for forever or it could be for the next few years, or you know, something that is really been great, especially over the last 2 years, is seeing the progression of people. I had a program that I did kind of probably started last year now, and I had a lot of young professionals, so kind of students and maybe like recent graduates who were coming up to graduation, and those people were looking for jobs and they just wanted a bit of guidance and a bit of help, and we did one-to-one sessions with them and just really helped to kind of build confidence in just every aspect, really understand what they want to do with their career and like how they can do that, especially in the next few months with everything that was happening and coronavirus and lockdown and everything like that, the dreaded words as they are. And now what's amazing to see on LinkedIn and just staying connected with those people is the progression they've made just within that year. And it's really great to see how much impact you can have on people, but equally how much impact the community has as well with each other. And I just felt really empowered and inspired myself from something that might seem strange because I've created it, but I feel really empowered speaking to other people and seeing the difference that it's made to their life, just having like-minded people that are similar to them or in industries that they want to be in, talking to each other, connecting, networking, but not necessarily networking in a traditional sense, like I said, where you kind of have a glass of champagne and I mean, that sounds great, but I think something that I'm about is kind of cocktails and jeans rather than a prom dress and champagne. So
can we talk about you, Olivia? I mean, how do you describe yourself? I mean, very often people are called entrepreneurs, aren't they? Would you describe yourself as an entrepreneur? And what's the secret to your success?
I don't think I call myself an entrepreneur. I like to think that I would be, but I'm probably not. I'm more just someone who goes with the flow and I appreciate things. I love business. I love the aspect of having a business. I love working for myself. I did a lot of freelancing before I worked full time, and that's something that I can't really see myself, even though I am young. I can never see myself going back to that typical kind of like 9 to 5. I did it and it wasn't really for me. I enjoyed it was okay, but it wasn't something that really got me going and kind of really something I felt I related to. I was always I enjoyed the job and I kind of liked the team, but I felt like something was missing. And now obviously with creating Girls in Marketing, it's given me the opportunity to use the platform and use the community, which is amazing. But even going forward, I can't really see myself doing the typical kind of like 9 to 5. It's just not who I am. But I wouldn't necessarily say I'm an entrepreneur, but maybe I have entrepreneurial tendencies, but I think it's quite kind of a big word to say I'm an entrepreneur when I've only got one business and I've only had one business. So potentially in a few years I would say that, but for now I'm just kind of building what I'm building and I'm enjoying it. I like to think it's more community led, social led, rather than kind of revenue led. Even though we are registered as a limited company, I wouldn't say that, you know, I always have money at the forefront. You know, money's great and it allows us to employ people and keep the business going and have a team, but also it's not the be all end all for me. I enjoy doing things and seeing impact from people without seeing the paycheck as well.
Olivia, I wonder if you might share with our listeners your age.
Oh, I'm 22.
Let's just take a moment. A, I'm jealous. I wish I was 22 all over again. And B, I think we have to contextualize it. We're not being ageist. We are simply saying, look what you have achieved by the age of 22. That is the enormity of your potential. And, you know, you come across as so confident and comfortable in your own skin. And, you know, understandably, given this environment that you've created for you, so you created a business that works for you and an environment, a way of working that works for you. What other strengths do you feel that you have to complement that, what comes across as self-confidence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, although I am self-confident, I do get a lot of imposter syndrome. And I think it does come back down to age, because people kind of assume you don't know what you're talking about. Sometimes when I also do kind of freelance SEO work as well. And when I speak to clients, a lot of the time, it's kind of like, what do you know? Like, what have you done? And it's hard to really put that into perspective for people, because a lot of the time age is quite a big barrier. And I've been told quite a few times, like, I don't act how old I am. And for quite a while, building Girls in Marketing, age is something that I kind of kept not necessarily a secret, but I didn't openly speak about it, because obviously I was building something, but I didn't want age to be a barrier, and I didn't want people to think, oh, I don't relate to this because I'm not 22. I wanted people to think, you know, I can be involved in this because it's for everyone, no matter what your age is. And that's the same for anything, you know, although we are called Girls in Marketing, and that's something that I've built with women at the forefront. It's not just for women. I'm open. I speak to a lot of men, non-binary people. Like, I'm literally for everyone. But the aspect of Girls in Marketing is more obviously empowering the female side of it. And I think, you know, I'm not too bothered about telling people my age anymore, but I still do think that people judge and people say, oh, well, you know, you've got a long way to go, you've got a lot of things to do. But I'd like to think, especially the last year, I've built something that people who are, you know, 50, 60, I've never even seen in their life, and something that they probably couldn't do because they don't have the capabilities to do it. Digital, you know, obviously being young, like a younger person, digital has been at the forefront of my life for quite a long time, and I think I've really utilised that. And I remember I went for a job interview because I was looking for jobs anyway when I was working full time, and I got rejected from the job. And one of the main things that they said to me, first of all, was that I wasn't creative enough, which made me laugh because then I've went on to create a really creative business. But also another thing was just kind of like age and experience, because I'd worked with clients and I was working full time, and I had, in my opinion, a decent amount of experience, like obviously not tons, but it was just a kind of mid-level role. I wasn't going for like a senior director level role. Something that they said kind of came back with was more age related, and that's something that did kind of impact me. And I find that this is kind of going off topic really, because you asked about values, but I felt like the age was quite a big thing for them, and it is for a lot of people. Yeah, it's just interesting to know people's thoughts on age and if that makes a difference to business. Obviously, you guys have put it across in a really positive way, which is so important. But building a business, I think the barriers that you come across are sometimes age. And I've spoken to a lot of people who say, oh, well, you're only 22, that's amazing. But on the other side, I've also had people who are like, well, you don't know what you're doing. And the truth is, I don't know what I'm doing. But people who are, 40, 50, 60 don't know what they're doing when they build a business either. So that age doesn't really come into it then.
When you talk about age discrimination, there's an awful lot of assumption that it's about the other end of the age scale. But in the work that we're doing, it's increasingly at your end of the age scale. And exactly as you said, Olivia, well, you don't know, you don't have the experience, you don't. And I think as much highlight needs to be put on the younger age of the spectrum in terms of age discrimination as the other end. So what you're saying, I think, is echoed in the world that Amanda and I operate in, for sure.
Definitely.
Completely agree. And I think what it speaks to is very endemic ageism in our society. It's far more prevalent than it's talked about, actually. I think you hear, like Catherine says, you hear more commonly maybe the stories of older women not being considered for jobs. They're being written off because they're too old. You hear of women more middle-aged, if you like, sort of wanting to start families, who are again rejected, excluded, written off, because there's a perception that with children will come limitations to their capability and their output. But it's just as important to highlight the and it's very patronising, isn't it? And like you say, Olivia, I have certainly met countless people in business who have only achieved a fraction of what you've achieved at the age of 22, and they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s. So I applaud you tremendously.
That's something that I see a lot, speaking to graduates and kind of young professionals as well, as the same. Obviously, I'm talking about it from a business sense, but even from a kind of job searching and recruiting aspect as well, is that young people are generally considered like they don't have as much experience, or they don't have as much to bring to the team. And I understand in certain roles you need people who are more experienced, but there are plenty of roles, especially in marketing and beyond, that are suited to young, fresh graduates that, just have a passion and an enthusiasm for things. And you will be surprised how resilient graduates and young professionals are, and how that they can do amazing things. After I went for the job interview I was speaking about before, that was the last job interview I went for. And after that, I went away and I was kind of like, right, I'm putting my all into girls and marketing. That's it. Like, I'm not going to interview for any more jobs. I'm not going to look for any more jobs. I'm just going to do girls and marketing, and I'm going to try and make something of it. And I did. And I fueled what happened in that job interview and the feedback that I got to create girls and marketing. But it can be really off-putting, and it can get you down and really enhance that aspect of imposter syndrome for people to think, if I obviously had girls in marketing and I wanted to pursue that, but if you're someone who wants more of a career that, you're not really business minded, it can be off-putting for someone to say that, because you can't help your age. I can't, say, right, I'm not going to have been born in 1998, I'm going to have been born in 1970. You can't say that. Like, it's not something you have a choice over, which is a lot of why people who feel discriminated against, they don't have any choice in why they're being discriminated against, which is why it hits home so much harder.
Olivia, this series, we are talking about community, and we're talking about allies and support networks. Can you tell us a bit about who supports you, who sits around you, who's in your locker room?
I'd definitely say my boyfriend, so my partner. We've been together for 5 years this year, and he went through university with me. He didn't actually go to university, he worked at the time, but he was through my entire university experience, and he's definitely my biggest cheerleader. I wouldn't have been able to leave my full-time job to do girls in marketing, because it was a huge risk. I didn't know if I was going to make any money. I didn't know if it would be successful, but he sat me down and I said to him, I'm really serious about this, like, I want to do it. I understand it's a risk, but I want to do it. And he said he'd support me the whole way. So that was amazing of him. And I know people often don't do that. And, you know, we had been together for a good few years then, but it kind of shows how amazing he is to me to be able to say, you know, listen, and we didn't have a mortgage, but we do rent, you know, we have a house, we do have bills. So it was amazing for him to say, listen, you know, like, I'm okay with this, like, you go for it. So he's definitely been a huge supporter, and also family as well. My mum's a big support to me, my dad's, my nans. There's honestly so many people, like even friends, like everyone's so supportive. And I think something that made me laugh is that when I left my job to do Girls in Marketing, nobody really knew what it was. I mean, I probably didn't really know what it was either, but my family definitely didn't. You know, my mum still to this day doesn't know how to describe it to people. When people say, oh, what does Olivia do now? You know, because they know I don't work full time, and she goes, well, she runs this community and does these good things for people. She doesn't really know, and I've tried to explain it to her, but it always just ends in her saying, oh, well, you know, I'll just explain it that you're doing good things and that sort of thing, which is nice. And it's nice to know that you've got that support there, and I genuinely wouldn't have been able to do what I have without the support from people, and that's just the reality of it. And I think, you know, a lot of people that I've spoken to that want to do things, you know, go freelance or start their own business or do something totally amazing and crazy, don't do it because they don't have that support there. So I'll forever be grateful that I do.
I was going to flip it then on its head, Olivia, because you've clearly had masses of support and you are cheerleading your community, but is there anybody in particular that you're sitting there, well, I'm cheerleading these individuals myself, you know, that, because we have a philosophy at She Has No Limits around pay it forward. Mm-hmm. And you are doing a massive pay it forward in terms of leading the community. But I wondered if we could take it down a level into sort of a more of a personal story for you in terms of some of the people you're cheerleading and you're an ally and a supporter of.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few people, but one of the main, like, probably some of the main people would be the team. So we have like a team of freelancers that help with the running of Girls in Marketing, and two of the main girls who have been with me now for nearly a year since the pandemic, Lauren and Martha, they are both freelancers for Girls in Marketing, and they've both got their own hopes and dreams, which is amazing. And I am genuinely like their biggest cheerleader, both of them. So Lauren is a huge, like, they're both writers and they want to do something with writing. Lauren loves traveling. She'd love to, you know, go traveling and write and, you know, do those amazing things. And Martha is also a writer, but she's more kind of like booky, and, you know, she's a big book nerd, and she loves keeping up to date with literature and, you know, that sort of thing. So I'm huge cheerleaders of them. We've had two girls recently join the team as well, and again, you know, they've only started with us last month, but I will be their big cheerleaders. I try and help people in any way possible. I know that Girls in Marketing is a huge community of people, and I've met amazing people from the community, and I just try and give people that opportunity to meet those people, you know, people who might have connections in different places. So Martha loves publishing and considered a career in publishing as she graduated, but she's kind of still finding her feet a lot now. But I was happy to introduce her to, you know, like publishing houses, which is great. And I think it's about having those connections. I always say, because people say it's who you know, but I don't necessarily think that's true. I think it's who you know who knows someone else, because you might not always know someone who has, you know, who works in this amazing place, but if you know someone who knows someone who can put you in connection, I think that's so valuable. So I just like to give people the connections, and those are obviously the team, but there's people within the community that I've tried to help in any way possible, just kind of like off sessions, whether it's, you know, career help, CVs is a big one, job interviews, stuff like that, just little kind of helpful tips and tricks for people. But definitely the team is a big one.
That do you know someone who knows someone is such a powerful question to ask, isn't it, Olivia? And often I find myself in my sort of coaching, mentoring space saying, go and ask the people you know if they know people who. And there is often a hesitation there to ask that particular question. Whereas, you know, our our exposure, our network, our connections are one of the most valuable currencies and parts of our weaponry.
Definitely.
It's a great point to make. Can I ask you about the world of marketing? Are you trying to disrupt it in a positive way? As in, what did you see through the lens of gender that needed a bit of a nudge in the right direction in terms of the marketing industry?
Yeah, I think just kind of chatting to people, a lot of it was because, if I'm being honest, marketing is female dominated as an industry. There are a lot of women who work in marketing, but when you actually look at the numbers and you look at kind of like senior positions, that's where women fall down. So it's not actually the industry, because I get told quite a lot, oh, but there's loads of women in marketing, why are you encouraging more? We don't need them, we've got too many. But the truth is that senior level, you know, head of, director, managerial level, that women just fall down on, because, and I genuinely think it's a lot to do with imposter syndrome and confidence. You know, when I speak to people and they've got a good loads of experience and they're amazing people and they've got a niche and they're really passionate about it, and then it's like, but they're working as, you know, just like assistant or exec level, and they haven't moved, you know, in their career, or they're stuck in a job, and it's marketing and they enjoy it, but it's not something really that they can see themselves doing later in life. It's kind of like, what stops those women? And the reason for Girls in Marketing is to empower those women to have the confidence to go away and to get those promotions, and maybe upskill if that's something that they need to do. You know, if they need to learn a certain trick of the trade that they don't know that will help them with that promotion, allow them to do that. But it's also about having the conversations with them and why they don't feel they can go for those positions. Because I think when you chat to women, that is one of the biggest issues, is that they just don't have the confidence to initially say, listen, like, I want to go for that promotion, I want to do this thing, or I want to apply for a senior position that I've never considered before. So it's just about equipping women with the right tools to be able to do what they want to do, whether that is, you know, workshops, upscale, or whether that is, you know, just a pep talk and just, you know, some confidence. And something that I find a lot with the one-to-one sessions that I do is that women come on and they say, I want to do this thing, and they haven't taken that step yet, because they always question themselves and they kind of say, but what do I do? Like, how do I go about it? What happens if I fail? And I think sometimes it's about saying, well, listen, like, these are the skills you've got, these are the things you've done, and, you know, this is how you can get there. Like, it's perfectly achievable. And I often speak to women who are in that position, and it's amazing to see, you know, the difference that makes just talking to them about it. And I had someone recently who has just started freelancing, and she was kind of unsure on her messaging and kind of what she wanted to do with people and how she wanted to do it. And I sat her down and we spoke about it, and I said, you know, personally, like, this is what I do, what do you think of, you know, doing that sort of thing? And it's not pushing people and telling people what to do, it's just giving ideas. Because she sat there and she said, listen, I'm, you know, totally out of ideas. I think I know what I'm doing, but I'm not entirely sure. So it's about giving people that kind of knowledge on how they can do things, and, you know, the way that they can do it, and the time frame as well, because sometimes, and pricing is a big one for freelancers. You know, she said, oh, but what do I charge? Like, how much do I charge for something like this? So it's just great to give an opinion to people who need it from an unbiased perspective.
We've talked here, haven't we, about the women and women with their confidence and their imposter phenomenon. I know it's more commonly known as syndrome, but from our world, and it's known as a phenomenon because it actually doesn't appear in the same way across anybody or yourself. You know, it can present itself in very different ways. But I wondered, what's your thinking, Olivia, around what organisations could do? So there's two sides, isn't there, to the coin? There's equipping women, but also there's some responsibility here from organisations. What's your thinking in terms of how organisations can absolutely make some demonstrable change?
Yeah. I think it's about opening the conversation with people. So if you are a business and you have employees, it's about opening the conversation and telling people what they can do to kind of get to that next level, or to help them around maybe any issues that they're facing. Because I think the big thing really with, you know, having imposter phenomenon or syndrome is really kind of understanding why you have it. And a lot of the time it's communication, because you think, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, or, you know, I've been given this project and I've never worked on a project like this before. How do I do it? What do I do it with? Is there anyone who can help me? So I think opening that conversation is a huge one. We recently did some salary research just with kind of our community, and we had over 600 women fill in their salaries, and they all worked in marketing, and the salaries shocked people when they came out, because in different ways. There was one end of the spectrum where people were saying these salaries are really low, like I can't believe it, and then the other end of the spectrum was people saying I'm not paid that, like I'm, you know, not paid enough. And I had a few women from that said, oh, it's made me go and talk to my employer about pay, which is great. But I think the conversation just needs to be open, because if you need to set expectations for people and understand that you are giving projects to the right people as well, because sometimes things are out of our own depth. You know, we can't do everything, and you shouldn't be able to do everything, and you shouldn't be expected to do anything and everything by employers. So I think it's about saying, I'm giving you this project, you know, or this campaign. I want you to do it. I believe in you to do it. I'm giving it to you because I believe in you. And maybe this is, you know, the tools or the way that you can do it, rather than a lot of the time employers just say, oh, here's an idea, go off and do it, which I think then people sit and they mull about it, and they're kind of like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know, you know, what to do with anything that I'm doing. And I think it overwhelms you when that conversation and the communication is closed off. So definitely about opening it.
Olivia, we've loved spending a bit of time with you
you
today
too.
and getting to know you. Thank
lovely
you.
having.
What would you like to share with our listeners? How can they access your work? What would you like to share?
Oh, well, you can just kind of have a look on our website, we'regirlsinmarketing.com. You can follow us on socials, We're Girls in Marketing, on virtually every platform, except if you are on TikTok. I know it's a new trend where it's Girls in Marketing with an extra G, random. But yeah, we're doing things online. I think online is the best place to follow us. We're hoping to start coming offline and doing some bits offline as well. But definitely check us out online and come and join the crowd, because we're a friendly bunch and we've got a lot going on.
Brilliant. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, can I just start by saying that I don't think Olivia knows quite how remarkable she is.
You're right, aren't you? I sort of like, it feels like that's a complete blind side in where she's at, and maybe it's something that you come to, and it's sort of a few years on from doing something, and then you look back and think, goodness me, that's really quite incredible. But yes, what an incredible lady.
Yeah. Really strong sense of who she is, that self-confidence of knowing what she's capable of, but also that she is deserving.
I love the purposefulness, the mission-led of the business, you know, so it's not money first. It's about community. It's about those fantastic values that she mentioned of empowerment, education, community and enablement. And that as well felt really good. A really, really solid foundation for everything that she's doing. And she's going to be, and she is, very successful.
Yeah. And a really important conversation had about ageism, which I'm sure so many people can relate to across multiple sectors, not just in the marketing industry.
And somebody who recognises the value of the support network and each other, and looking out for each other and having each other's backs, and that generosity and that spirit to absolutely help and move people on and to pay it forward and to take people with us on our success. So really inspirational. It was a real pleasure to sit and chat with her.
Yeah. And that's a strength that we take for granted because it's inbuilt in us. And yet there aren't many Olivias in the world, are there?
Not enough. I suppose the other reflection I'd got is she herself has got a very strong ally network, from family and partner, and she values them and she recognises them. And I think in that recognition, they're then forefront, aren't they? And so there's immense gratitude, and we don't take any of that for granted. So it is mutual. There's a complete. Am I going to be able to say this word? Help me out, Amanda.
Reciprocity.
That's the word about it. So it's not all give and it's not all take. It's beautifully balanced. So again, I thought that was a real skill.
And I was sat wondering whether for Olivia and her partner's generation, whether that true partnership at home influencing performance at work is more of a generational thing. But I think there have been, over the last 10 years or so, more conversations about that. So the obvious example I'm thinking of is, when Sheryl Sandberg wrote Lean In, she talked about the fact that she couldn't have achieved what she'd achieved as the COO of Facebook without her husband Dave being more at home, looking after the kids, etc. And we're seeing more and more stories like that now, that is encouraging the younger generations to apply that as a template without fear of judgment for either of them.
Which is fantastic, isn't it? It's just brilliant. We need to follow Olivia's lead and, have her philosophy. It's brilliant, absolutely great.
That's it for this episode. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed. Please send us your feedback. And if you'd like to have a sneaky peek as to who's coming up, then go to shehasnolimits.com and check out our podcast page.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care. All the best.